Friday, August 2nd, 1895. Today, Mark and I went from Butte to Anaconda without the ladies. We left the hotel at 4:30 by trolley car in order to have plenty of time to reach the train. But we'd only gone 3 blocks when the power gave out and we could not move. It was 12 minutes to 5 and there was no carriage in sight. We tried to get a grocery wagon, but the mean owner refused to take us a quarter of a mile to the depot for less than $10. I told him to go to. I saw another grocery wagon nearby and told its owner I would pay any price to reach that train. Mark and I mounted the seat with him. He laid the lash on his pair of Broncos, and I think quicker time was never made to that depot. We reached the train just as the conductor shouted, "All aboard," and had signaled the engineer. The train was moving as we jumped on. The driver charged me $1, but I handed him 2. In 1885, Marcus Daly, the owner of Butte and Anaconda, met with Charles Broadwater, the owner of Helena, and made a proposal that if he, Broadwater, and J.J. Hill, the owner of what would become the Montana Central Railroad, he, Daly, would build a smelter near Great Falls and move his ore on Hill's Road. Daly was already fed up with the antics of the Union and Northern Pacific Railroads. Hill had calculated that he could deliver coal to Butte for $2 a ton. The Union Pacific was charging $6 a ton. In 1886, the Union Pacific and the Northern Pacific Railroads created the Montana Union Railroad, a joint venture that they would share 50-50. The primary traffic was the Butte copper, especially that coming from the Anaconda smelter. Unfortunately for them, the Interstate Commerce Commission had ruled that pooling arrangements such as this were in violation of antitrust laws. Artificially high rates, as they charged, were no longer permitted. This put the 2 lines at odds with each other. As property owner, the Union Pacific had the upper hand. Most of the Montana Union officers were Union Pacific men. Consequently, expenses for maintenance work were charged off to the Northern Pacific, which refused to pay. On top of this, the Montana Union workers struck for higher pay. Marcus Daly shut down the Anaconda smelter for several months in frustration. In 1894, the Butte, Anaconda, and Pacific Railway had been built for Daly by J.J. Hill. The Montana Union had attempted to block any parallel lines to Anaconda by realigning their track in a zigzag pattern through Silver Bow Canyon. They were forced to yield. At Anaconda, we found a very fine hotel and several friends very anxiously awaiting Mark. Elaborate arrangements had been made to lunch him and give him a lively day among his old mountain friends, as he had been expected up by the morning train. Fortunately, he missed this demonstration and was in good condition for the evening. He was introduced by the mayor of the city in a witty address of welcome. Here was our first small audience where the local manager came out a trifle the loser. Little incident connected with our experience here shows Mark Twain's generosity. The local manager was a man who had known Mark in the 60s and was very anxious to secure him for a lecture in Anaconda. He therefore contracted to pay the price asked. Anaconda is a small city whose chief industry is a large smelting furnace. There were not enough people interested in high-class entertainments to make up a paying audience, and the manager was short about $60. I took what he had and all he had, giving him a receipt in full. As Mark and I were not equal partners, of course the larger share of the loss fell to him. I explained the circumstances when we had our next settlement at the end of the week, hoping for his approval. "And you took the last cent that poor fella had. Send him $100, and if you can't afford to stand your share, charge it all to me. I'm not going around robbing poor men who are disappointed in their calculations as to my commercial value. I'm poor and working to pay debts that I never contracted, but I don't want to get money in that way." I sent the money and was glad of the privilege of standing my share. The letter of acknowledgment from that man brought out the following expression from Mark: "I wish that every $100 I ever invested had produced the same amount of happiness."